Hey everyone, I'm just kind of like adding on to the last video, not necessarily adding on to the review per se, but just kind of to say I've been saying a lot of save. I don't really check out a lot of new shows on Netflix, and it's rarely that I do. So when I checked the show out, I was like, wow, this is like really interesting. I'm gonna check it out for real. And actually when it came out, the show like when it actually premiered, I just started watching it, and I was like, wow, this is really good. But I'm kind of like an old school person. Even though all the shows are there, I still like to watch it week by week. I don't know, just that episodic feel I like more instead of just like kind of. It just is to me. It feels kind of like a buffet type of thing. Like instead of like eating that whole thing, even though in reality, like me being a fat ass, I like to eat the whole damn thing. But in realistic terms, like when it's enjoying something, I like to make it last, make it like whatever. Too bad I can't do the same with some food. Anyway, not talking about food. I'm just saying, it's a really good show. Um, but the show that I do check out is kind of like my guilty pleasure. I wouldn't say guilty pleasure per se, but since I'm a huge fan of comic book shows and whatever, stuff like that tickles my fancy, and that's kind of weird to say. But I mean, it's funny how like a lot of people like talk bad about Jessica Jones, like it was just a bad show. Maybe like it moved a little bit slow, but it's actually a pretty good show. I mean, there's a lot of like stuff going on, because the main character Jessica Jones. That's why they named the show Jessica Jones. Anyway, but the point is, she kind of like has some um I guess I'm gonna say like problems in kind of like your last relationship because Purple Man like controls people's minds, and it's uh kind of like at a vulnerable state where she felt like manipulated and whatever. And essentially, long story short, it's kind of like it felt it was like a superhero show kind of, but it was also talked about other problems. You know what I mean? And especially with Luke Cage as well. It's a comic book show, but it doesn't like rely heavily on the comic book aspect. It's like to me at least, it felt like kind of like um more or less kind of like an outlet of like a race and shit like that, especially when Luke Cage wore a hoodie and kind of like, he's just like the savior for I mean yeah, it's I guess savior for the people that live in that area, kind of like for the people, but I guess I'm getting off subject a little bit. Is yeah, there's a lot of good shows that are produced by Netflix, written by Netflix, and I'm sure with other streaming services, In fact, there's a show, um, like Hulu, I think it is, that has Bryan Cranston in it. And if I wasn't like really kind of like caught up with like spending my money and shit, I probably would probably would get a subscription to Hulu just so I could watch that show because I mean Bryan Cranston, I mean that's the OG, I mean anything that guy does is like amazing. He's such an amazing actor. But like I said, like I was just kind of like, I don't know. Maybe I might not. I don't really know. But the point is, it feels like streaming services have better quality of shows than cable does. I mean, I still watch Walking Dead because I'm a huge fan of that show, but it just feels like a lot of good shows straight up. But you know, it's funny because like I watch a show like That 70 Show, for example, has like 8 seasons or whatever, But I think I'm gonna be the kind of pull back on my shows a little bit. I mean, cause like I think that's why I didn't really do much like Freestyle Fridays like I wanted to because this week has been crazy with studies and shit like that. But it's just normal student things. You know what I mean? Um. Anyway. But there's a lot of good movies out, and I think I'm more of a movie buff than a show. I mean, shows are good. Shows are really good because they flesh out the character and the plot and all that other stuff better. But with movies, I mean, I just like both. But when it comes to like like I think Marvel's thing is like something about the villains in the movies seemed unsatisfactory, but in the shows, I mean, on the shows, they really, really, really know how to write the villains, and of course they do because they have like 13 episodes to stretch it out, and it doesn't feel like. And that's another thing too with Marvel or Netflix shows. It doesn't feel like they're just stretching it out just to kind of like create some time. It just feels like everything that they do for the characters is kind of like essential for like kind of like I mean, for example, I think on season 2 of Daredevil, like I didn't know most of the stuff about Frank Castle. I just knew a little bit of stuff, but after watching season 2 of Daredevil, I was like, wow, you know, the guy from John Bernthal, he does an amazing job at playing Punisher. I mean, I like the movies, but it just feels like Thomas Jane Thomas Jane didn't really like show that much emotion um, as the character. I mean, maybe like kind of like he was just kind of like a guy that was like angry, but with John Bernthal's version, it felt like he's a guy that's angry, but at the same time that feels like really twisted. Like feels like people have been playing games with him and all that shit like that. So you really get a sense of that. Both are good actors, by the way, but it's just and it's funny because like when I first heard that John Bernthal was announced as the Punisher, I was kind of like, really? This seems kind of weird, because like I only judged it from The Walking Dead, and I mean, not saying that his character was bad, but it's really annoying, really, to be honest. Yeah, I think I'm just rambling on a little bit, just kind of not really rambling per se, but just yeah, I guess I'm rambling. This video had no point. I was just kind of like talking about how there's a lot of good shows on Netflix, a lot of really good shows, but I'm just kind of like not really stuck per se, but I just like the shows that I'm watching currently. Maybe in the future, maybe I might check out some shows, become addicted or whatever. Who knows? But one thing's for certain, nothing bad about Orange is the New Black. But personally, I think there's a lot of hype for it, and to me, it just feels a lot of hype. Maybe one day I might check out the show. I don't know. Anyway, I think that basically concludes. Think I like videos like this rather than video reviews. I like doing reviews, but this feels like an actual conversation. Just that I can have, and it feels pretty cool. It feels kind of like podcast-ish. It feels like I can just talk about my thoughts about shows and movies and stuff without feeling like, oh crap, did I get everything in the show? So I think I might do something like this. Anyway, that's it for my thoughts and everything. If you like what you see, please like, share, subscribe, do all the other stuff, and of course, I'm out like the Flash, and see you with another video.